morning, everyone. This is my presentation. It's a piece by JBeuys, I Like America and America Likes Me. I'm Charles Gauthier, and this is for art criticism. The exhibition I Like America and America Likes Me by JBeuys was performance art, a social experiment, and a push for postmodern America to take a good look in the mirror when considering social equality. Is that really what this work was about? Could work like this still stand up today? Would it even be relevant? A brief biography. JBeuys was born in northwest Germany in a small town called Krefeld in May of 1921. As a young man, he volunteered to become a pilot in the German Air Force during World War II. For 1 year before the war, Beuys studied medicine, but upon his return, he committed himself to an avant-garde socialist artist life. In 1946, he began to study monumental sculpture at the, make sure I get this right, Kunstakademie in Dusseldorf. Kunstakademie just means art academy. In 1951, Beuys was admitted to a master sculpture program and finally graduated in 1953. Fluxus and German avant-garde. The Latin word fluxus means flowing. Fluxus, the art movement, had no single unifying style. Artists used a range of media and processes, adopting a do-it-yourself attitude to creative activity, often staging random performances and using whatever materials were at hand to make art. Seeing themselves as an alternative to academic art and music, Fluxus was a democratic form of creativity open to anyone. Collaborations were encouraged between artists and across art forms, and also with the audience or spectator. It valued simplicity and anti-commercialism, with chance and accident playing a big part in the creation of the works, and humor also being an important element. Many believe JBeuys was the godfather of Fluxus. I'm going to veer off course just a little bit from following the steps of the slides, because I think you can't go on with the JBeuys presentation without knowing this story. The truth, the myth, or the lie. This is the way that Beuys tells the story. On March 16, 1944, JBeuys and his co-pilot Hannah Lorneck were flying their second mission of the day over Crimea. The weather turned bad and snow filled the skies. Although the two young men of only 22 were with a fleet of German planes when the visibility got bad, they found themselves alone. According to Beuys, the plane was flying too low and simply hit the ground in the whiteout conditions. Lorneck was killed on impact, and Beuys was burned and hurt badly. Luckily for Beuys, there was a nomadic tribe of Tartars living in the area who came to his rescue and nursed him back to health by covering his body in animal fat and wrapping it with felt. Beuys had been part of the Hitler Youth and was now fighting for Germany in World War II. After that experience, Joseph felt reborn, and his life changed forever. He had a total shift in his beliefs and was ready to begin a new life as a social artist. Just staying on this subject for one more slide. Art historians debunk the Tartar legend. Russian historians claim that nomadic Tartars no longer lived in Crimea in 1944. which makes Beuy's story a lie. Beuy's often referred to himself as a pilot, but his military records show that he was the radio operator and a gunner. After his death, the mother of Henna Lornek, the pilot who was killed in the plane crash, produced a letter from Beuy's that told a completely different story of the crash and German medics saving the future artist. So a lot of people think that the story that he told about World War II was not true. We're going to watch this little video. It's 3 minutes long, just to get an idea of what the exhibition that I'm presenting about is all about.
Noch im selben Jahr ist Beuys wieder in Amerika. Aber betritt den amerikanischen Boden nicht, kann die Amerika nicht sehen. Mit dem Krankenwagen lässt sich in die Galerie René Block bringen. Es ist seine Art der Rache für die jahrzehntelange Missachtung europäischer Kunst durch amerikanische Kolonisten.
I'll give a little bit of formal analysis when the video is playing and why we look at the pictures on the next page. Basically, Joseph Beuys flew in from Germany to New York, to JFK. When he got there, his assistants wrapped him in felt, the same felt that he had been wrapped in from his story from World War II, and put him in an ambulance. And basically, he didn't want his feet to touch the ground in America unless he was inside of the art gallery where he planned this exhibition. So there he is, wrapped up. They're bringing him into a gallery in Soho. They sectioned off a portion of the gallery to make a cage where he committed himself to live with a wild coyote for 3 days. This is the first interaction. I never could find out what the meaning of the triangle that he had with him was. He played with it with the coyote, but I couldn't figure out what the concept behind the triangle was. After 3 days with the coyote, he got back on the stretcher inside the gallery. They brought him back out to the ambulance, drove him back to JFK, and he even wanted to keep his eyes closed or a bag over his head because he didn't want to see any of America except for the coyote in the gallery space. He immediately got back on a plane and flew back to Germany. So there's the basic idea of what the performance piece was. Here are some photos from the performance piece. This is what I looked at the most when I was going through the piece. Here's in the upper left is just him and the coyote. It seemed like the coyote. He was kind of egging the coyote on, and the coyote wanted to tear the felt and get to him. I don't know if that was with bad intention or just wanted to see what was behind the felt. And as you can see in the lower left-hand corner, they definitely like share a moment by the last day where he was able to touch the coyote. He was never able to like pet it or cuddle it like a regular dog, but I guess they got close enough where he could at least be somewhat affectionate with it. Here's my visual and formal analysis. I won't go through the whole thing because it's really what I just talked about during the video and the last pictures, but I wanted to have it as a slide in the presentation. Here are my issues with the work. In my opinion, and even in my thesis, the overarching concept of the work is to show America that two beings can come from far different places and backgrounds, and they can still learn to get along if they're forced to be in the same room. And I think that was his whole point. Boys came from Germany and didn't acclimate to America. But the coyote came from a local zoo, which means it was used to the sounds and some human interaction. So I actually think the work could have been a little bit better if they were able to capture a wild coyote. That would never be done today. Obviously, animal activists would have freaked out in this whole thing, period. But I think back in 1974, that probably could have been done. Also, Boys wrote in his notes that he wanted to soak the felt in animal fat. Just he got really into animal fat and felt from the story of the plane crash, and I think he wanted to do that so he could kind of egg on the coyote. But as far as you can tell from any of the pictures of the video, it doesn't look like he did that. Quotes that sympathize with my argument. Boys' performance with the coyote remains extremely relevant today, as America seems no closer to healing its deep wounds and closing the rifts between different social and ethnic groups. In fact, with white nationalism, fear-mongering, and racism towards minority groups prevalent not only across the United States but also across Europe, Boys' profoundly moving communication with the wild coyote is a work of art that people can continue to learn from and seek answers and inspiration in. The Coyote Tales say that we learned a great deal from Coyote at one time. Recent developments indicate that we have a great deal to learn from him. The coyote action was Boys' attempt to renew the synergistic dialogue and to make contact with America that is both ancient and nascent. Okay, I'm gonna talk about my applied theory while I was doing this. While taking a deep dive into I Like America and America Likes Me, I couldn't help but think of Walter Benjamin's theories. And I used one of them. The concept that art has an aura is something that has been bouncing around in my head since I read that article. Great artwork is supposed to leave you with an emotion or feeling. The work should have something visceral in the soul of it. I think that I like the most, the thing that I like the most about the work is that the aura changes over time, over the time that the performance takes place. So like when he first goes in the cage with the coyote, there's probably nervousness and, people are thinking what's going to happen and is this dangerous and all that stuff. And then there's actually probably a period where the aura is more just boring, and then you realize that they can be together. Okay, and then I also took a look at work from the deconstructionist point of view, and if deconstructionist aims to break down popular perceptions in the art world and social constructs, I just don't think there's a better example of a piece of artwork than this. I mean, what breaks down what art is more than locking a human being in a jail cell, basically, with a wild animal. So, my conclusions. The exhibition I Like America and America Likes Me by JBeuys was performance art, a social experiment, and a push for postmodern America to take a good look in the mirror when considering social equality. Is that really what this work was about? Could work like this still stand up today? Would it be relevant? That's obviously my thesis. As I got further and further into my research, I began to wonder if my thesis statement for this talk was too easy or broad. Of course, America still needs a swift kick in the butt when it comes to equality. But that's not the real question. The question was the work specifically about American social issues? Because as far as I can find, the artist never really reveals that information. My conclusion is yes. I Like America and America Likes Me is the culmination of JBeuys' life. Everything that he experienced for 50 years led to that exhibition. He grew up in pre-Nazi Germany. He fought for the Germans in World War II. He had a traumatic war experience that took him decades to emotionally get over, but it changed his life for the better. He spoke good of America in the past, but then he began to see inequality, and then the occupation of Vietnam. He planned for an exhibition. He planned for this exhibition in America, and without speaking, he told America that you got to look in the mirror. It's time to make corrections before things get too far gone. Here is my bibliography. Here are some other works of JBeuys. I know I'm a little over time, so I'm going to try to speed through here at the end, but I guess his work isn't really that aesthetically pleasing necessarily. I mean, I suppose there's an argument for that, but it's so conceptual. That's a lot of what the Fluxus movement is, and he worked with fat and felt. Here's a felt suit. Here's like a roll of felt on a sled. Here's animal fat in a chair. I don't think his work is that aesthetically pleasing, but the concepts are so great. If you go back and read about it, I think you'll really like it. And finally, I just think there should be a little bit of a rebuttal to the plane crash being a lie. After reading a little bit, it's been proven that the nomadic Tatar people native to Crimea moved to the Ukraine well before the 1940s, but some historians argue that when the Second World War II started, the Tatar began to travel back to Crimea. So it is possible that they were there. Also, is it possible that Beuys wrote a false letter to a grieving mother who had just lost her son in a plane crash, and made the story as simple as possible and tried not to paint himself as a hero and her son as the non-hero who crashed the plane because of some snow? So, I mean, is it possible that everybody says that this letter is like the proof that it never happened, but maybe the guy just wrote a nice letter to a mother who was grieving. Okay, that's it. Thanks for the time, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.